Commission this morning, Co-Commissioner Advocate Sandile Khumalo questioned Mhorti's credentials. This after he claimed he was an operative for a self-defense unit, a branch of the Umkhonto weSizwe movement.
Do you know that Umkhonto weSizwe was disbanded in 1993?
Yes, I'm aware.
So, as a 13-year-old, you would have been an Umkhonto weSizwe operative in the SDU in 1993, as a 13-year-old.
Mhorti alleges he was in fact 15 at the time, as his ID number was incorrectly captured by Home Affairs.
My ID number is incorrect from the Home Affairs. From the Home Affairs. And I grew up like that. And actually, I was born in September 1977, 22 September, not August. But the error that came from the Home Affairs, there was no way I could reverse and change it.
The MK party has announced its position on the G20 Leaders Summit, saying it remains opposed to the international gathering expected to sit this weekend. The party says while it understands the purpose of the event, it argues South Africa should prioritize fixing its domestic challenges. Heads of state and other delegates are expected to start arriving in Johannesburg between today and tomorrow for the global gathering, Alpha Ramashwana reports.
The MK party maintains that South Africa should shift its attention away from international engagements and instead focus on getting its house in order. It points to the unemployment crisis, failing state institutions, a stagnant economy and inequality as issues that require urgent attention. The official opposition argues the G20 summit is little more than a global showcase for photo opportunities, speeches and statements that won't translate into meaningful change for ordinary South Africans. But President Cyril Ramaphosa begs to differ.
Our G20 is rather special because it speaks to the theme that we chose: solidarity, equality and sustainability. And I do wish we had added the word inclusion, because our G20 is about inclusion.
G20 visitors are expected to begin arriving today. Alpha Ramashwana, Eyewitness News.
All eyes are on the Reserve Bank today as economists are split on the repo rate decision in the final meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee for the year. The MPC will wrap up its deliberations on the central bank's benchmark policy rate later this afternoon. Some economists have labelled it as the conclusion of a period marked by elevated uncertainty and market volatility. Nogukanya Mtambo has the details.
While 2025 was expected to be turbulent, economists at FNB say the path to a 7% repo rate was initially projected to be smooth. However, external shocks from the new U.S. administration's tariff policies and South Africa's fraught budgeting process disrupted this path, prompting a pause in March. Despite these headwinds, inflation surprised to the downside and the rand held steady, allowing the MPC to resume rate cuts in May and July. While some market participants think the next rate cut could be as early as this November meeting, FNB says the MPC is more likely to hold the rate steady. The Bureau for Economic Research says if the SARB does cut the repo rate, it doesn't mean we'll see consecutive interest rate declines in the next couple of meetings. The latest decision comes after inflation inched up marginally to 3.6% in October from 3.4% in September, which is still some way above the new inflation target of 3%. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
In Cape Town, police are investigating the discovery of a man's body in a wheelie bin in Lotus River. That discovery was made early this morning with the victim not identified yet. The police's Wesley Twig.
The circumstances surrounding the incident are under investigation and no arrests have been made. Anyone with any information about this incident can contact Crime Stop on 08600 10111 or use the mobile application MySaps anonymously.
And a court in Spain has ordered Facebook owner Meta to pay local media outlets 479 million euros in compensation for unfair competition. The Madrid Commercial Court ruled that Meta gained a significant competitive advantage by running ads on its social media platforms. According to the ruling, this is in violation of EU data protection rules. Spanish radio and television stations have launched a separate lawsuit against Meta for the same reason, seeking 160 million euros in damages. A similar lawsuit has also emerged in France, where around 200 media groups, including major television networks and leading newspapers, filed legal action against Meta in April. Gold is trading at $4,069.54 an ounce. The rand is at 17.18 to the dollar, 22.44 to the pound, 19.87 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $63.76 a barrel.
Well, we still have those roadworks in the Calvin Alex area on the N3 affecting traffic in both directions. This is between London Road and the Butler interchange, while in the Mother City, slow-moving traffic on the elevated freeway heading into the Cape Town CBD. There's also slow-moving traffic on the M3. This is approaching Newlands Avenue.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng with afternoon thundershowers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 24 and 26 degrees, while Cape Town is fine with a strong southeasterly wind at a high of 27. The top story in EWN this hour: the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry continues to question the veracity of the testimony provided by controversial businessman Mhorti.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702 on 92.7 and 106 FM.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
And on DSTV channel 856.
Good afternoon. The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. Coming up with me, Jane Dutton. Should the Reserve Bank cut the repo rate today or hold the line? We'll break down the stakes before the 3 o'clock call and discuss what it means for you and me. The US is warning South Africa not to issue a G20 statement without its sign-off. Is that diplomatic bullying? And what happens if Pretoria does go it alone? Mhorti's return to the Madlanga Commission after a rough day on the stand yesterday already cautioned about evading questions and struggling to recall key moments with Minister Nkunu. E-hailing drivers have 180 days left to convert their permits. If you miss that deadline, you're illegal. And crime on Cape Town's mountains keeps rising. Has it affected you? And why aren't our biggest tourist hotspots being properly protected? Send me your thoughts via WhatsApp on 072 702 1702.
walking this talk together.
Every hour.
Every day. This is 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, Mhorti is back at the Madlanga Commission today after a rather bruising session yesterday where he claimed there was an assassination attempt on his life. But the evidence leader, Matthew Chaskelson, tore into him, calling him a professional liar and accused him of lying under oath. Well, Mhorti's back again today, and it's also been some rather interesting developments and thoughts and a bit of acrimony there as well. Oren Singh has been keeping an eye on it. Tell us what he's been saying. Let's start off with the Katmatlala messages, shall we?
Jane, if we thought yesterday was bad, Mhorti is not doing himself or anyone else any favors, essentially getting caught up in his own lies, as it seems from what he's telling the commission, as opposed to what they are querying from him that he's unable to answer. Certain message exchanges between him and Katmatlala, huge discrepancies in terms of his version of events in relation to certain messages he's talking to Matlala about and what the commission is putting to him, which he cannot clarify. Point an example. In December last year, just after a raid had been conducted at Katmatlala's home in early December, Mhorti is exchanging messages with Katmatlala around the 24th, 25th. This is during Christmas Eve. And he's talking to Katmatlala about an iPad guy, wanting to find out. Katmatlala suggests he has this person an iPad. And he's talking to Matlala about who is this guy. I need to know who this guy is. And he's unable to provide the commission with clarity as to why he wanted to know who this iPad person is. He's suggesting that Matlala was hell-bent on opening a case against the political killings task team who conducted the raid at his home and wanted iPad to investigate it further. But it doesn't quite add up, Jane, in terms of some of his messages to both Katmatlala and Senzo Mkunu. Another example is on the 31st of December. He sends Senzo Mkunu a message, or he sends Katmatlala a message to say, today is D-Day. And the commissioners say that the only thing of significance on the 31st of December was the letter by Senzo Mtunu to disband the PKTT. And he is suggesting that, or the commissioners are suggesting that Brown Mhorti is communicating with Kat Matlalo to tell him that today is D-Day in terms of this letter coming out. But he argues against that, saying that, no, I was talking to him about some payment that he was meant to pay us. So he's digging himself into quite a big grave. It's going to be difficult for him to pull himself out, or let alone anyone else, because he keeps suggesting that people are going to be coming to corroborate what he's saying. A very difficult time for him and a tough time to be Brown Mhorti, without a doubt.
You listen to some of what he says, and you just wonder if he's just outright bonkers, or if he's just discrediting himself. And where does this leave the whole process and the allegations and the players at play?
It leaves it somewhere it shouldn't be, up in the air. Because essentially, if you are making these wild and outlandish allegations, you should be providing some sort of proof. Now, he claims he's not a police officer. He's an informant, a crime intelligence agent, and part of his job is to lie. In certain instances, he's lied under oath, and he confirmed this to the commission that he has lied under oath. So the commission bringing into question, what should we believe as to what you're telling us throughout these 3 days that you've testified? Can we take anything for fact? And so things are up in the air where it shouldn't be. There should be, in a commission of inquiry, certain things that are presented to the commission that would allow them to go and investigate further. But you kind of feel sorry for him, Jane, in some regard, because he's getting caught up in his own lies. He's contradicting himself. And in this next clip, you'll hear him kind of questioning, should I even be here?
I'm sitting here, asking myself questions as I'm responding one by one. And I'm responding to the same table that says to me, even the oath that I have taken, they don't believe it is binding my conscience. If someone is in my shoes, does it really help for me to be here? Or as we go on, it will start to bind in the mind of the commissioners? Is it still appropriate for me to be sitting here giving evidence on a known fact that the oath that I've taken doesn't help?
Mr. Mhorti, please do not make a mistake. What is put to you by way of questioning in no way means that decisions, conclusive findings have been made by this commission. I think you asked me a similar question yesterday. I forget, or I think you asked whether we believe that you are in fact a co-agent. Am I mistaken? I think that's the question you put.
That was the question.
And I said to you, Mr. Mhorti, we are going to make our findings at some stage down the line. So take it from me when I say at this stage we have not made any findings. But that does not mean that we will not test what you are saying.
Yeah, and it's interesting looking at those asking questions and the expression on their faces, right? You can see the disbelief or the confusion. What's likely to happen next?
Well, I think he's going to be grilled and interrogated a little bit more on some of the wild claims that he's made so far. He hasn't been able to, as of yet, kind of substantiate those claims and provide solid arguments to the commission that would give them some sort of relief or comfort in what he's saying. So we're going to expect to see him being grilled. We're not sure whether his testimony will carry on into tomorrow, but we do know, off the record, Jane, that some bigwigs are likely to come in next week to testify.
Oren Singh, thank you.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
All right, let's talk about the G20 Social Summit, which is just wrapped up. We're also going to be dipping into the Parliament Ad Hoc Committee and what's been coming out from there. But let's start off with the Social Summit. We know that Brazil pushed for the creation of it, because its government under President Lula da Silva wanted to shift the G20 away from it being a club dominated by finance ministers and big economies, and rather getting conversations going with people on the ground. So let's just have a quick touch with Lindsay Dintlinger on what has come out of it so far.
Good afternoon, Jane. Well, these groupings, which really include everybody in the grassroots and the civil society spectrum, from youth and women and traditional leaders, and the list goes on, really coming together under one umbrella. As you pointed out, when Brazil was the host of the G20 last year, they were trying to connect the grassroots with the government decisions that get made. When Deputy President Paul Mashatile opened the gathering here in Boksburg 2 days ago, he said he would make sure that the declaration that we are expecting President Cyril Ramaphosa to receive from this summit within the next hour or so, that he will make sure that it gets put on the leaders' table when they meet over the weekend, impressing that leaders and governments cannot make decisions when they have not considered the voices of civil society and the issues that really impact them, everything from poverty alleviation, inequality, the just energy transition, access to financing for small business and the like. These are just some, really, Jane, of a whole range of topics that have been discussed here, not just over the last few days, but over the course of the year in various work streams. And so the idea really to link the two, although it is probably very unlikely that the United States will take forward this particular platform on its G20 agenda next year. We heard former Deputy President Phumzile Mlambo-Nyuka telling the gathering this week that they should not be put off by that, and that they should work towards ways to ensuring that perhaps once 2026 passes, that this platform once again returns to the agenda when the United Kingdom takes over the G20 presidency, Jen.
Okay, when we were chatting a little earlier, you said let's jump from Boksburg to Parliament. Let's talk about what's been going on in the ad hoc committee today. I know a lot of focus on the alleged threats by Paul O'Sullivan. Hello, Lindsay. Right, we seem to have lost Lindsay there. We know that this morning there was conversations going around about what Cedric Nkabinda said yesterday. He's the Chief of Staff to the suspended Minister of Police. Okay, Lindsay, I was asking you about the focus this morning. We've heard quite a bit about Paul O'Sullivan. What's been said about that, and what else has come out?
Well, shifting gears, Jane, after those late night text messages that Paul O'Sullivan allegedly sent Cecil Nkabinda, and today really the focus is on a new witness. He's a divisional commissioner within the police, although not a career policeman. He has detailed to the committee he has a very long history in procurement, from National Treasury to Eskom and the like. He is an engineer, and essentially he's in charge of procurement in the police. And what they're really focusing today on, Jane, is that 360 million rand healthcare tender that would have been awarded to controversial businessman Vusimusi Matlala. His company, Medicare 24 Swane, would have been awarded this contract that we know former police minister Senzo Mchunu put a halt on, and it was intended, the committee has heard today, to provide screening services for new recruits within the police, but also to provide all kinds of healthcare services to those in the police service, whether that is illness, whether it results to retirement, or illness that have led to retirement. And this would have been to run the clinics at various SAPS police stations. It was a tender previously held by Metropolitan, and the evidence leader today really quizzing, his name is Fani Molefe, the witness, about why they thought that this particular company was suited for this job. And just before coming on the line to you now, the committee has heard that the independent, the NPA's IDAC component, the investigative agency, had contacted the police questioning why they had decided to award the contract to this particular company, because they made the links with the corruption that has happened at the Tembisa Hospital. And that's pretty much where the testimony is at this point in time, Jane.
Okay, so let's leave it there. Lindsay Dentlinger, thank you very much. And those of you who are listening, I'm just wondering what you think about what's come out of these committees and inquiries today. Real growth needs more than just banking, and Nedbank Commercial Banking is your growth partner. Their team of industry experts understand your business and its potential, offering insight to help you see opportunity where others see obstacles. Because when you can see what others don't, you can do what others can't. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Step into a world of unforgettable experiences in Dubai. From luxury beaches to underwater adventures. From authentic traditions to futuristic museums. Make it a Dubai adventure to remember with Emirates. Fly to Dubai from one of 3 gateways in South Africa. Start your holiday the moment you board with delicious regional meals, complimentary drinks, and up to 6,500 channels of entertainment. Fly Emirates. Fly better.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a work commuter. She's done this route 1,000 times. Perhaps she's daydreaming of a different job or just counting down to the weekend. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just another car in traffic, it's anticipation on the move. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005, in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP. This is Cindy on a 4-hour road trip with the girls.
Did you know in the 1970s this landmark...
And this is Cindy when she shares her 200 gig for 299 Rand on her MiFi router.
Guys, Dodo, you're the DJ.
Extra your summer with a 200 gig SIM-only data deal for only 299 Rand per month and stream anywhere with 2 months free YouTube Premium plus 5 gigs free YouTube data. Sign up or upgrade online and in store. T's and C's apply. Further together, Vodacom.
In case you missed it, 702 was in conversation with Santam about Santam's partnership with the G20 taking place in Johannesburg.
We've got an opportunity because Africa has got the youngest population, and that there needs to be focused in terms of harnessing this critical skill. But Africa is also prone and vulnerable to natural disasters. So what we've done, for instance, as Santam, is use the same template of a program like P4R to actually expand some of the programs to countries like Namibia.
Santam is a proud sponsor of the G20 Summit. Santam, this is freedom. Santam is an authorized FSP, a licensed non-life insurer, and the controlling company for its group of companies.
Because this journey is better taken together.
Let's walk the talk. 702.
Hello, Jane Dutton here. Love to hear from you on the stories that we're talking about. 072 702 1702. Send us your voice up messages or voice notes. Now, South Africa is facing a diplomatic showdown with Washington on the eve of the G20 summit in Johannesburg. The United States has warned Pretoria not to release any final G20 statement under its presidency unless the US signs it first. Let's bring in Brooks Spector, international relations expert. A good afternoon to you, Brooks. Is this just pure bullying, and to what end?
Good afternoon, Jane. I'm totally nonplussed by this latest demand or position. I'm nonplussed like everybody else.
You're not alone, yeah.
And, you know, I guess the ancient Greek word hubris applies here. Mm-hmm. If you're not in the tent, I'm not entirely sure why you have a say in what goes on inside the tent. But this does fall pretty much in line with the way Donald Trump handles most of his negotiations, which is always push a button a little bit further forward, yep. And never back down, and if necessary, move laterally, but never retreat. You know, he spent the last several months decrying the themes and then downplaying the possibility he would appear, and then saying he wouldn't, and then his vice president would, and then saying that they wouldn't, and that they wouldn't be anybody there. And now the statement that may come out, the overall final communique, has to be cleared with with the Trump administration before it's issued, even if the Trump administration wasn't in the meeting. That's hubris.
Okay, so can South Africa go ahead without US backing? And if they can, how much weight would a final statement still carry? And what could the repercussions be?
Well, first of all, we have to, we don't know whether, in fact, there'd be enough unanimity among all the countries' leaders who are meeting that there will be a final joint communique in which everyone agrees.
Yeah.
And if there is it sufficiently anodyne that there's nothing in there to bother anybody? Or will it end up being what some people call the chairman's notes, which will be Cyril Ramaphosa reading a piece of paper that says, and I note the following things happened and our discussions included X and Y and Z, and that is pretty much it. And that's because everybody couldn't come to total agreement on the content. Keeping in mind, of course, that the final communique or the director's notes never signify action that must be done, because this is not a body that can enforce decisions in the first place. And as to what happens if there is a joint communique or Ramaphosa reads his chairman's notes and Washington doesn't like them, well, they already don't like the meeting and they don't like the themes of the meeting and they didn't like it enough not to come anyway. So, I mean, what else can they really do other than huff and puff a lot?
I mean, do you think the showdown weakens the G20 in any way, or just expose the divisions that are already there?
I'm something of a cynic on the G20 as a potent force. Actually, I tend to think that it's a great time to have a very nice party. My cynical view is when the APEC summits take place in Asia, they're more fun because everybody gets a special shirt to wear. You've seen those photographs. Everybody's wearing either a bark shirt or a batik shirt or something, and they all look lovely in their class photo. Here, everybody's going to be wearing a suit, and that could be anywhere. But to be more serious, it is possible to argue that the G20 as a meeting puts a certain moral imperative on members to begin to do certain kinds of things that they've all agreed to. But on the other hand, you could say, well, they agree to them because they're cost-free.
Okay, all right. So they don't get the T-shirts. We get wrapped over the knuckles before coming up with anything anyway. What should South Africa do now about handling what's going on and handling the G20 and its relationship with the US without damaging its foreign partnerships?
Well, my argument has been that right now, South Africa needs an ambassador in the United States who really has a high degree of probity and global experience and the ability to speak frankly to Americans in a way that they will understand rather than simply the cliches that may have been uttered by somebody else. And that hasn't happened yet. And of course, the United States does not yet have an ambassador in South Africa either, although one has been nominated and will eventually get here, assuming everything goes as planned. I do think that the South African government has to continue to explain its policies clearly, but not simply to the same old friends in Washington that they have been reliant on for many years. There are all those other congressmen and senators, there are all those staff members for the congressmen and senators and for the Congress itself. And there are senior but not top-level bureaucrats in the Department of State and Defense and Energy and so forth, all of whom have to be communicated with, and that requires a really serious effort on the part of South Africans in Washington.
Brooks, let's leave it there. Brooks Spector, international relations expert. I guess we can be rather buoyed by what happened at the B20 and how many businessmen were out from the United States. It's 12:31, time for the news headlines.
Thanks, Jane. Good afternoon. The Madlanga Commission of Inquiry continues to question the veracity of testimony provided by controversial businessman Mhorti. Mhorti is being accused of having no regard for the law after confirming he has previously lied under oath. During cross-examination today, Co-Commissioner Advocate Sandile Khumalo questioned Mhorti's credentials. In Cape Town, police are investigating the discovery of a man's body in a wheelie bin in Lotus River. The discovery was made early this morning with the victim not identified yet. And the Transport Department is urging e-hailing drivers to convert their charter permits into operating licenses before the 180-day deadline expires. Drivers have until March next year to secure their e-hailing licenses through the National Transport Regulator. The move forms part of government's efforts to regulate the e-hailing sector. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 1 or as it happens.
EWN Sport.
Good afternoon. I'm Mawande Mateza. The Proteas are hopeful fast bowler Kagiso Rabada will play in the second test against India starting on Saturday. Rabada hurt his rib in training last week and was unable to play in the first test, while Lungingiti was called up as cover. Proteas bowling coach Pete Botha says Rabada will be assessed tomorrow before a final decision is made, and the rest of the bowling attack will be determined by conditions in Guwahati.
Rabada is still being monitored by our medical staff. It obviously wasn't at practice today, but they'll make a call in the next 24 hours. As far as the pitch is concerned, obviously I had a look at it this morning, still 2 days out, so it's difficult to predict if they're going to actually cut more grass off or not. That will obviously make a difference.
The Springboks will name their team for Saturday's test against Ireland this afternoon. Coach Rassie Erasmus is expected to make several changes to his lineup once again after giving key players a break in last week's clash with Italy. The Boks are targeting a first win in Ireland in more than a decade, and wing Cheslin Colby says it would be a significant victory for them as a team.
Whatever team you play for, especially for the Springboks, you would obviously love to win each and every test match you play in. But yeah, personally for me as a player, I haven't won yet. We came close in 2022, but yeah, just didn't capitalize on a few opportunities and shots at goal that definitely costed us. Back then, it will obviously be massive for the team, for our growth, the way we want to move forward.
That matchday squad will be named at around 3 p.m. And Italy kept their Davis Cup title defence on track with victory over Austria. Matteo Berrettini and Flavio Cobolli won their singles matches to keep them on course for a third successive title, and they'll play Belgium in the semi-finals. Mawande Mateza, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage in the Calvin Alex area, roadworks still slowing down traffic on the N3 northbound between London Road and the Butler Interchange. Look out for those faulty traffic lights. In four ways at Winnie Mandela Drive and Four Ways Boulevard, traffic lights also not working. Edenville, Modderfontein Road and Van Riebeck, while in the mother city, you can expect some delays on the elevated freeway heading into the Cape Town CBD. Also slow-moving traffic on the M3. This is approaching Newlands Avenue. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online and on the EWN app.
For the first time on African soil, business leaders from across the globe are gathered for the B20 Summit in Sandton till the 20th November. On the agenda is inclusive growth and prosperity through global cooperation. Every day, the Clement Manatella Show will be in conversation with Nedbank to discuss all the news, views, and insights live from the B20 Summit. So tune in to 702 in conversation with Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Click season is different from any other ho. Oh? Yes, here's why. Mix and match any 3 festive gifts with a purple sticker.
Oh.
And get the lowest one free.
Oh.
With the famous Clicks Purple Sticker promotion. It's only at Clicks. Feel good, pay less. Deals valid until 24 December or while stocks last. T's and C's apply.
The joy of what if we just let it go to voicemail. The joy of what if we skipped the flight for a front row seat to the open road. The joy of what if the wrong turn took us the right way. The joy of what if we didn't share this view and kept it our secret. The joy of what if not being there yet was the best part. Choose the joy of what if with BMW.
Small businesses are anything but small. They're the backbone of our communities. The dreamers, the doers, the ones who keep Mzansi moving forward. That's why 702 and Capitec Business Banking are putting them in the spotlight. Every Thursday between 6 and 8 p.m., catch Small Business Focus with Capitec, where we showcase the hustle, heart, and the secrets to thriving in today's economy. Your vision matters, and with Capitec, you're never building it alone. Small Business Focus with Capitec, the business bank for everyone. Thursdays between 6 and 8 p.m. on 702. Capitec Bank is an authorized FSP 46669.
Walking this talk together.
Every hour.
Every day. This is 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Just wondering what you think about what Brian Mhorti has been saying yesterday and today. Today has to prove the many outstanding allegations that he has made. Chaskelson putting lots of questions to him, casting serious doubt on his allegations. And Nkosana says the Commission has really good lawyers. They expose his lies and make him implicate himself. Also about the US's demand for South Africa not to issue a G20 statement. Brooks Spector earlier on was saying it's a real case of hubris. Send us a message, 072 702 1702. Right, in a couple of hours' time, the Reserve Bank will announce its final interest rate decision of the year. Economists are split. Inflation has crept up to 3.6%, and the new 3% target is still out of reach, and global shocks have unsettled the outlook. Some expect a 25 basis point cut. Others warn the bank may hold to protect credibility. Let's find out what the unions want and bring in Matthew Parks, COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator. Good afternoon to you. What are you expecting today? What are you hoping for?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. I think for us, we think there is space for ideally a 50 basis point reduction cut, but at the very least, at least 25 basis points. Inflation has been falling steadily from a peak of about just over 7% 3 years ago to about 3.6% now. We think the economy, workers, families have gone through a very difficult year. And of course, bearing in mind that, since the war in Ukraine 3 years ago, we've seen 475 basis point hikes because of the international oil price and the subsequent inflationary push in our economy. So we think there is a need. We should always bear in mind we have a 1% economic growth rate. We have a 42% unemployment rate. The economy does need some stimulus. Working middle-class families do need some TLC to help make it easier to pay the debts, take care of their families, and spend money in the economy. And we're also heading, towards the festive season when the retail and hospitality sectors really need to make their margins for the year. And these, of course, are major sectors of employment for the economy. And what we need is a bit of a stimulatory effect. So we think there is plenty of space. We hope, at the very least, after quite a difficult year for South Africa with electricity prices, trade turmoil, the tariff regime, etc., South Africa needs a bit of love from the Reserve Bank. So we really do hope at least a 25 basis point cut.
If the bank decides not to cut, what sort of message does that send to workers who, as you've explained, so many people in South Africa are under extreme financial pressure?
It will really be a devastating blow. People need a bit of sense of hope. And I think for us it will be a huge missed opportunity. And it will undermine the message the Minister for Finance made at Parliament when he announced the new target, that the target would be phased in over 2 years or so, and that the target will also have a 1% leeway, so to speak. So for us, I think there is a need, and also to bear in mind that the causes of inflation are largely external. The international oil price, and of course that has a huge impact upon our fuel price regime. Those are things that customers don't really have control over. And of course, the other issue is the Eskom. Its dependence upon these double-digit tariff hikes since 2006. And that's largely because of Eskom's financial holes. half of its customers are paying for electricity, issue of corruption, cable theft, wasteful expenditure, etc. So inflation here is not demand-driven. It's externally administrative prices, and we think that society does need some hope. And for us, it would be a real tragedy not to do so. And it would be an economic mistake, too, because we need to see in quarter four, the festive season, we need to see the regional hospitality sectors cover the margins for a year, give a bit of a bump to the economy, because when you go into quarter one next year, it always is a little bit of a downturn. So we need to get some oomph into the economy and kind of give hope to society that we are turning the corner, because we have had some good news in the past recent bits, the exiting grey listing, creating 250,000 jobs in the last 3 months, the remarkable turnaround of the South African Revenue Service, overcoming load shedding, stabilizing transits, reopening metro. So we need to maintain the momentum and not to dampen it.
Well, I hope you get your wish. Matthew Parks, COSATU Parliamentary Coordinator.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
Let's keep the focus on this because it's incredibly important, this decision that's going to be made, or the announcement that's going to be made at 3 o'clock today. Arthur Camp is the Sanlam Investments Chief Economist. Arthur, are we likely to get an early Christmas present today? What do you think is going to happen?
Good afternoon, Jane. Yeah, the market's pricing in a high probability of an interest rate cut, so that is the general expectation, 25 basis points lower. There's a lot of reasons for it. The rand has been firmer. More recently, after the medium-term budget policy statement, there seems to be more optimism around South Africa's fiscal consolidation path, which is important to anchor long-term inflation expectations. Recent inflation prints all through this year have tended to surprise on the low side relative to expectations. The Reserve Bank may even revise its inflation forecast down a little bit. And on top of that, there's some expectation that the Fed, which does matter, will also continue its rate-cutting cycle. So there's a lot of reasons that this optimism comes from. I would caution, though, it's to my mind, it's not a completely done deal. If I had to predict, I would say you probably will get a rate cut. But at the end of the day, I think the really important development is this inflation target, right? So we're targeting 3% plus a tolerance band of 1% around it. At the moment, there's not any shocks that I can see that you would say, okay, let's make use of that tolerance band. So you want to be shown to be guiding inflation towards that 3%. And if we look, inflation was 2.7% in March, and it hasn't been going up strongly, but it's been drifting higher. We've got to 3.6% in October. And if we look at inflation expectations, and that's the critical thing here, and to get that target to 3%, the Reserve Bank is confident that lowering the target can help get inflation expectations lower. But it's critical. We're not getting another inflation expectations survey before this meeting, but we do have the September one, and the expectations for 1 year ahead and 5 years ahead were at 4.2% on average. Yeah, analysts have become more optimistic with lower inflation, so the next survey in December probably might show a bit lower. But I still think that these expectations are still a bit sticky and high relative to 3%. So maybe the SARB just says, look, let's just see if this pickup that we're seeing in inflation at the moment is, as we expect, temporary, that it will recede through next year into the medium term, that inflation expectations will come down. So let's wait until the new year before we cut. But I think it's more an issue of timing of the rate cut rather than
because obviously the Reserve Bank is concerned about weakening its credibility, right? And for households and businesses, I mean, how long do you realistically expect rates to remain at or near current levels? Obviously, this will be determined by the announcement later at 3. But what should their expectations, their preparations be?
Well, I think that if they don't cut at this meeting, I think January would be on the cards quite strongly. The Reserve Bank's quarterly projection model, now, it doesn't have to follow that model, but it is one of the important guidelines that it does use, says that this repo rate can come down through next year to 6.18 at the end of next year, which implies something in the region of 3 rate cuts between now and the end of next year if the inflation forecasts pan out. And I think I would say that on current information, if inflation goes to sort of 3% by the end of late next year or 2027, that's a reasonable expectation. But in the world today, forecasting is very hazardous, and something could go wrong. I mean, one of them is that, the Federal Reserve at some point, I would think, has to start focusing on its own inflation target. It's well above its inflation target, has been for a number of years now. And so maybe the Fed possibly doesn't cut as much as expected. And also maybe inflation expectations take a bit longer to adjust downwards in South Africa. Importantly, inflation itself, I mean, if you exclude administered prices, yes, inflation is at 3.2%, but administered price inflation, excluding fuel and paraffin at the moment, is 7.2%. Okay. And so, you might find that this inflation is a little bit more sticky going through next year than you would like. And so perhaps the risk is that you don't get as many rate cuts over the next year.
All right, all shall be revealed in just over 2 hours' time. Arthur Camp, Sanlam Investments Chief Economist. Thank you.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a couple stealing glances at each other. In a week, their lives will change forever as they exchange their I-do's. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a love story on the move. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
What do partners of the Gates Foundation do when facing the world's toughest challenges? They keep going. From discovering a plastic drape that helps detect excessive postpartum bleeding faster, to developing better bed nets to kill malaria-carrying mosquitoes, to researching an RSV vaccine that could save hundreds of thousands of children. For every problem, there are people who prove that progress is possible. The Gates Foundation, partners of human potential. Learn more at gatesfoundation.org/keep going.
There's something magical about booking your next getaway. Whether you're flying for business or leisure, Airlink is ready to take you there in premium comfort. With over 45 destinations in 15 African countries, Airlink connects you throughout Southern Africa and beyond. No middle seats, just wider window or aisle seating. And yes, free luggage, snacks and beverages are still our thing. Plus, our Skybucks frequent fly program rewards you every time you fly. Book on flyairlink.com or your travel agent. Fly Airlink, the freedom of the African sky.
In business, SMEs on the move need an Absa Business Revolve credit card to ensure everyday expenses are always well managed. Absa gets it.
Everybody's trying to make sure that they've got enough stock to meet client demand, but also balancing that to ensure that they don't have too much stock. And then, really trying to make sure that they maintain profit margin. So we recognize this at Absa, and I think this is exactly why we've developed this Business Revolve credit card product. And I think the key standout from a benefits and features perspective is that this credit card offers up to 55 days interest-free. So what that means is that a lot of these businesses will be able to buy stock now and only really have to pay for that stock in 55 days' time, freeing up that working capital.
702 Drive with John Perlman was in conversation with Pascal Albrecht, Executive for Commercial Issuing Product at Absa Business Banking. Visit primemediaplus.com to hear more with Absa on 702. Absa is an authorized FSP and a registered credit provider. T's and C's apply. Absa, your story matters.
Because this journey is better taken together.
Let's walk the talk. 702.
In this midday report with me, Jane Dutton, the clock is running for e-hailing operators. The Transport Department says drivers have until March to convert their permits or they'll be illegal. But platform companies are lagging. If their apps aren't registered with the National Public Transport Regulator, drivers can't convert or apply for licenses. Colin Thebe, spokesperson, Department of Transport, is going to explain to us what the situation is and what is going on. Very good afternoon to you. Why are platform companies moving so slowly when the clock is ticking?
Well, we're trying to understand. The instruction that has come out of the minister just now is to have a forum with these companies so that we could try and assist them. Because at the moment, that's another thing. At the moment, we have Bolt and Uber, and others are not coming forth. We don't understand the reasons why. I think it is because of the change, and people just think maybe we still have time to do so. So hence, we've had to issue a statement today to say, come forward. Otherwise, 6 months is just too short. You've got to register. If you need help, come forward so the department can help you.
All right. And operators, how many, what sort of numbers are we looking at who risk becoming illegal by March?
Well, operators, I wouldn't have those numbers. Obviously, it would be at the moment. I mean, it's on the system, but it's quite a huge number because at the moment, as I speak to you, Jane, there isn't any company which is registered with the regulator. So basically, you're talking the whole e-hailing sector, which won't be able to operate at that time. But we're quite confident that it's going to turn around. So we're going to be engaging with them and to assist them. The forms are on the website of the department, and there's even the guidelines in terms of what they need to do. But also they need to interact with ICASA because we need to have a certificate. We are not experts on issues of apps and so forth. So they would need to speak to ICASA, get the certificate, so that ICASA, they're happy with the app. And then they can come and also demonstrate to us as to whether it covers all the areas that we've indicated, including the issues of safety, whether it captures the details of the vehicle, of the driver, as well as the destination for the passenger. So these are
So
all
assuming that all of this is done to protect passengers and drivers, right? At a cost of 5,000 rand.
Certainly. Well, 5,000. Obviously, the maximum period is 7 years. We're going to have to look at it again, go and re-register after 7 years. It is to ensure that are you still compliant? So all these things are there to ensure the safety of the passengers.
Colin Masibi, spokesperson for the Department of Transport, thank you very much.
Walking this talk together.
Every hour.
Every day. This is 702.
Let's walk the talk.
It's very concerning to hear that crime is rising again on Table Mountain. New 2025 stats show violent attacks and robberies climbing from Lions Head to the Cape Peninsula, while security resources shrink. Andy Davies is the chairperson of the Friends of Table Mountain. Andy, concerning, obviously worrying for everybody. What is driving the rise in violent attacks and robberies?
Good afternoon, Jane. Thanks very much for having me on your show. It's difficult to say exactly what's driving the crime, but we're definitely seeing an upward trend. Friends of Table Mountain, we independently track crime stats on Table Mountain National Park. What we have seen is definitely a shrinkage in some Sandparks resources. In 2021, we saw that they had 52 visitor safety rangers, and apparently now they only have 40. And also the canine unit in 2021 was 16 dog handlers, and now they've dropped to 2. So we've seen a bit of a shrinkage in resources, and obviously the mountain is becoming more popular. We're seeing more tourists, and that unfortunately is also attracting more crime.
What reasons are you giving? Is it budgetary constraints, or is something else happening that we are not aware of?
Yeah, well, I think this is one of our big frustrations with Sandparks, who manages Table Mountain National Park, is Table Mountain National Park is an incredibly profitable park. I think the profit margin is like 300%. And we know that in the recent presentations by the Sandparks CEO that they have over 2 billion rand worth of cash in their accounts. So Sandparks is incredible.
Money's not the problem.
Money is not the problem, and that's what's so frustrating for us. And what we're finding now is that volunteers are stepping in to do a lot of the work that Sandparks are expected to do.
I mean, why though? I just don't understand. If this makes them so much money and they understand, this is a tourist hotspot, it brings a lot of money into Cape Town and its surrounding areas. What is their justification?
Yeah, look at the same. Simple. It's that profitable parks like Kruger Park and Table Mountain National Park need to cross-subsidize all the other parks, which is something we completely support and agree with. But we always say that you need to take care of the goose that lays the golden egg. So first port of call, Sandparks needs to take good care of Table Mountain National Park. It's an international tourist attraction. It's an iconic UNESCO World Heritage Site. And since our inception in 2020, we've been pleading for more resources to be allocated to Table Mountain National Park.
All right, so what immediate steps should be taken, and what is your message to those who want to walk these pathways?
Well, firstly, I mean, to encourage people to enjoy Table Mountain National Park as much as possible. We know that many of your Gauteng listeners will be visiting us over December, so please come and enjoy the park. But if you do walk on our trails, please walk in large groups and try and stay away from some of the hotspots. Just actions we would like to see. So we've just completed a petition, which we've sent off to the Minister of Fisheries, Forestry and Environment. And we do lobby with Sandparks Management all the time. But what we need to see is we need to see an increase in budget. And also we need to see a very detailed and transparent needs analysis just to show exactly what resources are required for this mountain.
And what about volunteers? You said that volunteers are stepping in to help. If somebody wants to volunteer, what should they do? Is this encouraged?
Yeah, of course. You know, we all have a part to play. I mean, even in our suburbs, we need to volunteer and perform neighborhood watch sort of functions. So in terms of security, it's a little bit more tricky on Table Mountain National Park because, you are isolated on the mountain. But we encourage all the mountain users to, like we said, walk in large groups. And if you see something suspicious, if you see people overnighting or vagrants on the mountain, then we ask people to report that as soon as possible.
Mm. Well, let's hope you get this sorted out before the season or starting from today. I'm going to walk up Lion's Head. I've never done that before. Andy Davis, chairperson of Friends of Table Mountain, talking about the security risks that we are seeing in Cape Town and the fact that the resources there, the males and females who comb those mountains and looking after everybody are just dwindling in numbers.
Team, summer is game time in Mzansi. Every tap, scan, swipe, it all adds up. And FNB is giving us big rewards, partner deals, e-bucks, defense tips, and chances to score experiences money can't buy. But you're only in the game if you pay with FNB. So stay sharp, spend clever, and let's dominate. Get in the game with FNB. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. NCRCP 20, T's and C's, earn rules and limits apply.
Progress builds. It moves, and it has a partner. That partner is Anglo-American. Together, we're building progress where it matters most across South Africa. With a 1 billion rand investment into education in our host communities, $15 million pledged to the Global Fund to support community-based health services, 1.6 billion rand in deals facilitated through our Impact Finance Network. And as a sponsor of B20 and G20, we're bringing that same spirit of partnership to a global stage, proving that when collaboration is real, progress moves faster. South Africa has a partner. Join the conversation on social media. Anglo-American, mining potential, building beyond.
For the first time on African soil, business leaders from across the globe are gathered for the B20 Summit in Sandton till the 20th November. On the agenda is inclusive growth and prosperity through global cooperation. Every day, the Clement Manatela Show will be in conversation with Nedbank to discuss all the news, views, and insights live from the B20 Summit. So tune in to 7:02 in conversation with Nedbank, proud sponsors of the B20 Summit. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider.
Because this journey is better taken together.
Let's walk the talk. 7:02.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 7:02 Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. It is 1 o'clock, time for the news.
This is EWN.
Dumsani Khumalo makes a return as crime intelligence head, and Brown Mhorti's credentials under scrutiny at the Madlanga Commission. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. We begin with news just in. Dumsani Khumalo has been reinstated as the Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. We begin with news just in. Dumsani Khumalo has been reinstated as the head of the embattled Crime Intelligence Unit. Senior police officials have